guns qualify under the 50-year rule in New York State, and it's more specific than you might think. And some of the guns that do qualify might surprise you. One is they need to be semi-auto. Two is have one of New York's banned features, like having a detachable magazine. And three, it has to be 50 years old or older. And that is the exemption. What does that mean? Because you might be asking, I thought assault weapons were banned in New York State. You can only register in the small time period they gave you when they enacted the SAFE Act in 2013. And you would be correct, but there's a little known clause that we went over in the last video that we're going to expand on today that changes things up a little bit. Well, this is one of the most well-known examples of a firearm that would qualify under that exemption in the New York State SAFE Act that would allow for it to be registered legally as an antique assault weapon. Assault being in quotations because it's a made-up term, but I use it for the sake of New York State. Sidetrack, them trying to ban these plastic features on a gun that is newer than this, that doesn't need to be registered or cannot be registered, thinking it's going to save lives is like taking fenders and bumpers off of a car, thinking that's going to stop people from getting run over. This gun would check all of those boxes that we just went over. This firearm is semi-automatic with a scary pistol grip, has the muzzle device, and is capable of accepting a detachable magazine. If you didn't see my last video, we go over this exact firearm, the Colt SP1. That buffer tube in there. Colt introduced this firearm in 1964 with the first civilian version of the iconic AR-15. None of your bells and whistles that you got today, just exactly like the classic M16 that you've seen in cinema and video games. The Colt SP1 is significant not just for its role in firearms history, but also for its place in the evolution of modern rifles. Being adopted by law enforcement and others, featuring a lightweight design from its M14 predecessor, going to a small 223 22 caliber round starts to change in firearms history from going to large caliber rounds with less capacity to faster speed, smaller caliber ammunition that could hold more ammo. Finding that combat was happening more at closer ranges and intermediate distances. The Colt SP1 featured a 20-inch barrel, plastic style handguard, classic carry handle. Didn't come with a Hanko scope. This was a add-on that you could have purchased. Made in Japan Hanko scope 4x21. Came with the classic M16 stock, pistol grip, safety. And one of the things you might have noticed is there's no forward assist. Eugene Stoner did not want that forward assist on there, but the military insisted it is as a backup. This is roughly 1972, so it's got the bird cage, flash hider, and your post front sight. These came with metal 20-round mags back in the day, but being in New York State, you only have these 10-round mags or the 10-30 that you can use in a vest. Now, a lot of people are confused because they say, why register? Well, your normal featureless rifle a rifle like this that is made to be New York State compliant, that doesn't have any of those bad features, is not required to be registered, but also you're not allowed to register. So a lot of people get confused. The only way that you can even register a firearm legally in New York State that's not a handgun is if it's 50 years old or older and it meets those qualifications and you have your semi-automatic endorsement. This goes to highlight the lunacy of New York State laws. One, not having certain plastic features is not able to be registered and is not registered. And one being 50 years old and requiring to be registered and is able to be registered post SAFE Act. But if it was 49 years old and didn't have those plastic features on it, it could not be registered and would not required to be registered. Does that make sense? 49 years, can't have the features, doesn't need to be registered. 50 years, it can't have the features, needs to be registered. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to wrap this video up for today. If you enjoyed, hit the like, hit the subscribe, leave a comment what you think, even if you don't agree with this. Obviously, I don't agree with any of these communist laws. A lot of people count on me for, oh, why do you register? Why do you register? Being online like I am, obviously, I can't come on here and post and say, do something illegal, right? You got YouTubers that have legal registered machine guns, legally registered SBRs. Obviously, you can't get those in New York State, but there's some compromises you got to make. Like if you're an FFL, you got to be registered. You got to go through all these things with the ATF. So there's some compromises you you got to make if you're a business owner or if you're online, because even the guns that I'm not legally required to register, if I post them online, the government knows where I live, and then they see the gun that I have. And unless you built all your firearms from parts that are not serialized, then if you bought your gun at a gun store, they have all the records of that. And like you saw in Red Dawn, shit hits the fan and people really want to get a hold of those records, they're gonna get them.
Да, идите в спортивния и рабочая викиде и принесите мини. Государственная форма 4473. Жълтоя ве, то е картотеки.
And they're going to come after everybody in the end anyways. So I wanted to get one of these rifles because the rest of my rifles, you can't have the scary features unless they're fixed magazines. So I wanted to have a detachable magazine, normal AR-15. And I wasn't old enough to own a gun before the SAFE Act. Before they passed this assault weapons ban, I was in elementary school. So I could have never registered one of those because I never owned one pre-ban. So this is the only legal exemption that they left in the SAFE Act. I've always wanted to have a normal AR-15, and living in this state, that's the compromise I gotta make. And also, if you want to legally own a handgun in New York State as well, all of those need to be registered. So I bite the bullet on this because I'm a firearms enthusiast. I work in a professional with firearms. I agree with a lot of people. It's all BS. It's lunacy. The laws don't save lives. It's communism to disarm the American public, take the power away from the people. I do this because I post these videos so I can educate you guys, get you guys armed. Obviously, I can't come in here and tell you guys to go get a legal gun. So the best I can do is come on here and educate you, New Yorkers out there and others, about firearms, show you the firearms we got. And to the people that don't live in New York, you get to see firsthand what communism looks like in the United States of America. See what we New Yorkers deal with, and obviously I live in upstate New York, so it's all woods, hundreds of acres of woods and lakes and trees and hunting and fishing and everything. So it's a little bit different story like in New York City, right? Obviously firearms training and everything like that will look different down there than it will up here. Like I have my own spot I can run drills the way I want. Thank God I live where I live. We have a lot of freedom up here, but we still got to obey the laws of a city 5 hours away that doesn't live the lives that we live up here. Just like in the revolution, people miles away, people living totally different lives away from us in power with control over us, telling us how we can live our lives and what we can and can't do. And they have their whole enforcement arm to enforce it. I'm not saying I disagree with the people out there that say these things, but I just want to come out and share my experiences. But ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, love you all. Hope you enjoy this video. I'll see you in the next one.